Yep, it's a good life, all right. Who'd have guessed we'd get this far?
Must have been born under a couple of lucky stars.
Well, luck might have had something to do with it, but really, when you think about it, we've had more than just luck working for us.
Oh, really? You think we deserve a little of the credit?
Well, yeah. I mean, as far as our career success goes, we've made a few smart moves over the years.
True, true.
Like, well, deciding to become Burger King franchisees.
A smart move for sure. And then there was that time that we invested in that West Coast telecommunications company.
Ah, yes. Now that little investment paid for my first boat. Well, if you think about it, 1995 was an important year for us, too.
Oh, right, 1995. That was the year that Burger King introduced the new franchise agreements and revised procedures for resolving development disputes.
And, since we both signed on to the new franchise agreement, we were entitled to use the new procedures. Now, those ADR procedures really broke some new ground.
Especially when you consider what happened the next year. The encroachment dispute.
Dear Mr. Briggs, this letter is to inform you that a developing franchisee has requested approval to develop a restaurant within a half-mile radius of the intersection of Apple Grove Road and North Main Street on a DTL basis. Burger King Corporation will be evaluating the viability of this location shortly. If you have any questions or concerns, including any specific objections regarding the requested approval, you must contact me in writing within 15 days in accordance with the new encroachment procedures. Sincerely, Camille Castor, Franchise Associate. Hello, yes, I'd like to speak to my development manager, Marlene Richardson. Marlene, hi, Stanley Briggs. Look, I just received notification of the new restaurant being considered for down the street. Yeah, I'm afraid this one might have an impact on my Spruce Street restaurant sales. Okay, I'll send off my objection. Then what? Fill out the form? Oh, yeah, okay, here it is. Okay, I'll make sure I include specifics that support my concern that the new site's going to hurt my business. And I'll get this back to you right away. Then we'll get together with my FM for a meeting? Thanks, Marlene. I'll give you a call in 2 weeks.
I thought for sure this was going to have a big impact on my sales.
But you really didn't know. There were still several possible outcomes, and Burger King could have disapproved the site.
Or they could have granted me the right to develop there.
Right, but first you had to have that meeting with your development manager, Marlene, and your FM.
Hey, Marlene, Carl, come on in. Have a seat.
Stanley, how are you?
How was the trip?
Oh, fine. The weather didn't cause any trouble at all.
Good. Well, where do we start?
Carl and I are here to talk about the new development site. We're hoping to resolve the concerns you've raised in your correspondence. Now, there isn't any time pressure on the developer's real estate deal. So, if once we review your issues, I still believe the proposed development can proceed, we will have time for a sales transfer study, if you'd like to commission one.
Stanley, do you have any questions about a sales transfer study?
Well, yeah, how much will it cost me?
Well, as you know, first we have to decide who should pay. Burger King, you, the developer, or a combination. If we decide that you must pay, you'll need to place a deposit of $5,000. However, if the study projects an impact of 10% or greater, Burger King will refund that deposit to you.
Let's spend some time going over Stanley's specific concerns with the new restaurant.
Well, I'd like to go ahead and get an STS done. But what happens if I still object to the development once the STS results come in?
The new development procedures are very specific, and they've been redesigned to deal with disputes in the fairest way possible. If, once we get the STS results, Burger King decides to allow development of the site and you still have objections, we will continue to work towards resolving the dispute.
How?
Well, if the STS has predicted an impact greater than 10%, you have the right to appeal the development decision directly to the CEO or to his designated representative.
And if that appeal is denied?
Then we move on to non-binding mediation.
Because you signed the new franchise agreement, we've agreed to first try to reach a resolution through a mediation session. But that session won't take place until 12 months after the opening of the new restaurant. And obviously, if we can work out a resolution without a mediator, well, that would be our preference.
In the meantime, you and Burger King are going to track and analyze the actual impact the new restaurant has on your business. That way, when you get together again, a year from the opening, with Burger King and the mediator, we'll all be looking at real-world information. Not only the real dollar impact, but a whole range of other influencing factors. Everything from roadwork and traffic patterns to operations, advertising, marketing, restaurant appearance, and the like.
And what about the real-world dollar impact to my business during this 12-month tracking period?
Well, there are several things Burger King can do. If the STS you've commissioned shows an impact potential of 10% or higher, and if you sign up for arbitration and the Alternative Dispute Resolutions Procedure, or ADR.
Alternative dispute resolution? Refresh my memory.
The ADR agreement says that if the non-binding mediation is not successful in resolving the dispute, you agree to participate in binding arbitration with a neutral advisor, who will then make a final decision on the impact and any awards.
Okay. And then how can Burger King help me during this tracking period?
Well, if the sales transfer study projects an impact greater than 10%, to help your cash flow, Burger King will agree to defer your royalties for the 12 months. And will schedule quarterly meetings during the year just to keep on top of what's happening. And if that's not enough, we can consider some other kinds of support, such as loan assistance.
Of course, there's no guarantee that a loan or other financial support will be given, and you must continue to do everything you can to compete effectively and run the business. Basically, we want to stay on the same.
Remember that all of this came about at the time I was hoping to do some development of my own. That site next to the new exit on the highway.
Right, but signing the ADR agreement and paying the $2,500 ADR deposit was required if you wanted to keep the expansion approval and keep that project in the works.
Yeah. So, between not wanting to miss the highway site, and in that specific case, considering the deferred royalties Burger King was offering, I decided to sign the ADR initiating agreement.
Not to mention the fact that arbitration was a whole lot less expensive than going to court.
And really, the 12 months went by pretty quickly. The next thing I knew, everyone was at my place for the mediation meeting, real-world documentation in hand.
But you weren't able to come to an agreement that day.
No, we ended up going on to the arbitration process.
You're my lawyer. Give me an idea of what's going to happen here.
Well, this isn't a court. There are no rules of evidence, and the entire process is completely confidential. 2 or 3 legal and development experts for Burger King have come out from Miami. They'll be at the session. And the franchisee who developed the new restaurant may also be involved. Now, we'll all tell our stories to the neutral advisor we've selected, and he'll then try to facilitate a negotiated settlement.
How long will this go on?
We'll be in session no more than 2 days. And during this time, we can also talk to the Burger King folks outside the session, if we think an agreement seems more likely that way. But if by the end of the session we can't reach an agreement, the neutral advisor can then declare an impasse and make a binding settlement decision.
Well, let's go reach a settlement.
Let's do it.
I wasn't sure what the outcome would be.
It could have been determined that the new restaurant's impact wasn't large enough to warrant any compensation.
It could have, but it went the other way. And the advisor decided that I was entitled to compensation.
And that compensation was calculated based on the new procedures? How did that work exactly?
Well, the advisor determined the percentage decrease in my gross sales attributable to the new restaurant over the first 12-month period.
So let's say there was a decrease of 12% on existing sales on $1 million.
Okay, Then the reasonable impact percentage was subtracted. In this case, for annual gross sales of 1 million, the arbitrator decided that the fair threshold was 7.5%. Of course, it will vary by case. It could have been higher, or it could have been as low as 0%.
Leaving an incremental impact of 4.5%.
Correct. Next, that 4.5% compensation percentage was multiplied times my gross sales of $1 million.
Giving us compensable lost sales of $45,000.
And that was multiplied by a 35% flow-through to calculate my lost profit.
45,000 times 35% would give us compensable lost profit of $15,750.
And finally, the neutral advisor decided on a multiplier of anywhere from 1 to 8 to determine my total award.
Anywhere from $15,750 to $126,000.
You got it. I think given the competitive environment out there, that the new dispute procedures took a fair approach to the issues.
Yeah, me too. Open communication, no litigation, and a real move towards 21st century style business.
Yep. When all was said and done, I'd say everyone felt that the neutral advisor's binding decision was the best possible solution. And who can complain? I mean, here we are now talking about it like old friends.
Old friends indeed. Are you telling that old story again about when you thought Roger's new restaurant was going to hurt your Spruce Street sales? I think you'd be tired of rehashing these details over and over. Come on in for lunch, you two.